I'm here with Jessica Kemper at the University of Utah Edible Gardens. She's the coordinator here. Jessica, could you tell us a little bit about getting your garden beds ready for winter?
Absolutely. So we are standing in the hoop house of our garden, which is nice and balmy. Doesn't quite look like winter, but outside it's getting a little colder. It's time to get your beds ready for winter. Two main goals when you're preparing your beds for winter. You want to protect your soil from all the elements. You don't want all the soil to erode away over the winter. And you can also replenish your soil with nutrients that some of your summer crops may have used over the summer. So say you had a bed that was planted with summer squash. You want to remove all of those old plants, tomatoes, beans, etc., and then all of your weeds as well. You want to make sure it's weed-free so that you are basically ready to reseed. You can till your soil if you know that you're really low in organic matter in your bed, and also if you have a pest problem. Tilling your soil can expose eggs of pests and they'll die over the winter. And then you also can add compost into your soil, and then as you till it, it'll mix the compost in. If you aren't seeing any problems with your plants over the summer, if they're growing fine and you don't have any pest problems, you can certainly skip your tilling. It kind of just aerates the soil if you have really clayey soils, and if they're compact, you can till. I personally prefer to till by hand because you can get a little deeper, and tilling with a motorized vehicle, you're using fossil fuels, which I prefer not to do. And also, the tines only really reach about 6 inches into the soil, so anything below that can become really compact if you're using that season after season.
So if you're digging it out with a shovel, you want to get at least 6 inches or go deeper. And what is that tilling and the digging, what's that going to do to the weeds that are already there?
Sure, so kind of negative and positive for tilling. A lot of weed seeds can come in by wind and land on your garden. By flipping your soil, it could be giving them the perfect opportunity to germinate and spread. I think in the long run, tilling your soil does help if you are facing those compaction problems, and if you're seeing that your plants are having a hard time, there's not enough organic matter. If you notice that your tomatoes are doing really poorly, or something just isn't as vigorous, you can test your soil. This is an at-home kit that you can just buy from any home maintenance store or garden center based on the colors, what you may be low or high in your soil. Another option which we usually utilize at the gardens is we collect a small sample of soil and we send it off to Utah State University to their soil lab, and they'll tell you exactly what's in your soil, the composition of your soil, and how you can fix it. If it is really high in salts or really high pH, they'll tell you exactly what to do to fix your soil so that you can be successful in the future.
That's great. And do they charge for that service, or how do they normally work that?
They do charge for the service, but it's pretty cheap.
Okay. When it comes to tilling the soil, is it best to do it in the fall after you pulled up all the plants, or in the spring before you plant?
You can do it in the spring or fall, it doesn't really matter. The benefits to doing it in the fall is that you can seed earlier in the spring. Usually people are really excited to start growing things in the spring, so it just kind of takes that chore away. Also, by tilling in the fall, you can incorporate your compost, and that gives it a little extra time to mesh in with the soil that you already have in your bed, kind of creating a better area for your plants to grow then in the spring.
Tell me about the seeds that we have here. How are you going to use these, and what do you expect out of them?
Sure, so in some of our beds, we are going to cover crop, and this is a type of cover crop. This is hairy vetch, which is a legume, and legumes are a little bit slow to germinate in our beds. You always want to put your seed in at least 4 weeks before frost, giving them enough time to establish, that way they won't die over the winter. If you put them in a little too late, they'll be a little too small and tender and can die in the frost. You might just want to broadcast the seed on top and kind of rake them in and tamp the soil down a little bit to help with soil-seed contact, giving them a better chance of germinating. But if you have a really small garden, you can also create furrows just like you would squash seeds or anything else that you're seeding in your garden. Some common cover crops that you can use in Utah: hairy vetch, which are these seeds right here. And here's an example of hairy vetch when it's flowering. And we also have Austrian winter pea. And then here is winter rye, and people also use winter wheat. Benefits to using the rye or wheat is that they germinate really fast and establish. It's great for soil erosion.
So that's what you're going to do with these, is you want it to kind of like grow over your garden bed and just keep everything in place through the winter so the water doesn't wash it away when the snow
Exactly,
melts.
yep, and they'll live over the winter. Come spring, you let them continue growing until you're ready to seed your plants, and you especially want to pull out any cover crops that are going to seed, because if they go to seed and spread in your garden, it could become a weed.
So it's basically going to sit mainly dormant throughout the winter, and then spring it's going to come up. So at that point, when do you pull these out of the ground?
You can pull them out of the ground and add them to your compost, or you can work them straight into your soil and they can decompose there. We'll probably pull them all out and add them to the compost then, and at about this point I would pull them out because they're probably getting pollinated and getting ready to seed.
Okay, the flowers and all that.
Right, yep.
Yeah. What are some other ways to prepare your beds if you're not going to cover crop?
So if you decide not to do cover crop, you can just mulch your beds. Remove all of the summer crops, like I said before, and then you can pile on either shredded leaves or straw, some kind of vegetation to protect your soil from all the elements over the winter so that your soil doesn't erode. The reason why you'd want to use cover crops is if you feel like your plants aren't performing quite as well, it can replenish the soil with their nitrogen.
Well, Jessica, thank you so much for having us back here again. We appreciate your expertise every single time. We hope that we have you back on again.
Thank you for coming.